Hello everyone. Welcome to the ZiaWoolz StudioBuzz podcast, episode 23. I'm Doug, and this is a podcast about yarn, lots of yarn, and about all the beautiful things you can make with it. Sometimes crochet, sometimes knitting. I spin too, and sometimes I sew. And I am also the dyer behind ZiaWoolz yarn, and that's where the name comes from. So I have so much to talk to you about, so I want to jump right into it. I'm outside again. It's beautiful. It's midday already, but it's not too hot today, so it's just perfect to record outside. I have so much to talk to you about. Oh my goodness. And where do I start? I have this big pile of things around me, and among the things that I want to show you are a few that you have seen in the past and that I thought I'd bring again, so you know I really finished, because they were done, and then they went into the basket of ends to weave in, and that basket kept getting fuller and fuller. But finally I got to it. We came back from our vacation that I had mentioned before, and so I was kind of in the mood to do this kind of things, and I have brought you the stuff that you had seen before. I'm not going to go into them in detail just because I've shown them before, but I felt like I want to show them just so you know they're done and they're ready to be either gifted or to go into the drawer, the closet, whatever. So among them was this pair of socks which I had made from a sock blank. Actually, that was one of the first sock blanks that I had ever dyed, and I had these beauties which I had made with yarn from Marigold Jen that I had purchased at Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival. Super fun, cute shorty socks. Then I have woven in the ends of the cardigan a design of mine. I shouldn't even call it a design. I find that is kind of like a little bit exaggerated, but I've knitted so many of these top down and a little bit of a neck shaping, and then just go. I usually, what I do is I decide on the length of the sleeves and finish those before I finish the body, so I can get all the length to utilize as much yarn as possible, and that's what I did here. Oh, there's actually one thing missing here, which is the button. I ended up making a loop, which I believe I also showed in the podcast before in a previous episode, and I still need to pick up a button, find the perfect one. So this will be gifted if she likes it. If not, it will be mine. That was the cardigan, and then I have finished some things that you have seen as, oh no, there was one more that, oh yeah, this has a funny story, people. So I had made the shawl on the Spice Market by Melanie Berg, and I had dyed up my own yarn. Now it is blocked, and it is so much nicer blocked, as things usually get. I dyed the yarn specifically for this shawl. And if you look closely, you will see something funny. Okay, where are you? You see this little thing? Well, what happened was, I believe that I woven the ends, which were, oh, there were a lot of ends. Wait a minute, I don't want to show you the wrong side. This way. There were a lot of ends, as you can imagine. I did not usually carry the yarn on the edge, especially with that green going across the lighter colors. That would not have worked. So a lot of ends, and I'm thinking that possibly wait a minute, I don't even know what happened here. I'm thinking this is where I wove in the very last end after casting off. I haven't to investigate, because what I thought would happen and why I have loose stitches here is that I accidentally, when weaving in that very last end, that I went into the stitch instead of by the stitch, and that's how this unraveled. And I only noticed it when I was blocking the shawl. But now I'm thinking maybe this, it almost looks like I woven the last edge, the last end on this side of the final edge. So I will need my very good glasses to investigate and to figure out what happened here, because this is just odd. But I will get it done no matter what happened and fix this little end. And I just, overall, I'm super happy that this is finally done. Actually, when I updated the project page on Ravelry, I found that I started this exactly a year ago. So it was about time. So another thing that you had seen in the past, that you had seen me working on, is a shawl which I also just recently finished, and that is the Everyday Shawl by Jenny Feifel. I made it with a gradient commercial yarn that I had purchased in Germany, and I started with a green and slowly other colors blended in. So it's a yarn that was made of 4 individual threads, and bit by bit colors are replaced by other colors, and that's how you get a gradient effect. It was my first time knitting with that kind of yarn, and it was okay. I just had one big issue, one thing that I didn't like about it, and that was that whenever there was a change in one of the colors, which meant only changing one thread, there was a knot in all the components. So it was completely cut, it was knotted and reattached, and that knot I would not want in my garment. So I undid that and I wove in the ends at that point, which was didn't make me too happy, but the end result now is a beautiful, beautiful shawl. And it's a great pattern, which was very well written, and I enjoyed making this. I used, I don't even know, let me check real quick. I think I used the needle size that was recommended for the yarn, which was a 4mm needles. Actually, in the pattern, it says to use a 3.75mm needle, which I decided not to do. So I went with this, and I seriously played yarn chicken, because in terms of the yarn requirements that the pattern says, I wouldn't have had enough yarn, but I thought, oh, I'm gonna figure it out somehow. And in the end, this is all that was left. That is not much. It freaked me out a little bit when I was going towards the end, because how do you even replace something like this? I wouldn't have known what to do, but I thought I'll deal with it when the time comes. So, but it worked out, so all is well. I'm happy. I think the shawl pattern he asks for, let me tell you this. Doesn't say. About 800 yards. No. Yes, 800 yards, exactly. Yeah. I made the large size. You have 2 size options, and I wanted the large size. So 800 yards, and I think my skein had, oh yeah, it had only, oh wait a second, that's why I didn't run out of yarn. It has 760 meters, which is definitely more in yards. So it wasn't my luck, it was just something that I misread. Oops. Okay, let me toss that aside. And then, remember this, my glacier yarn. It's one of my own yarns. It's a ZiaWoolz that it was a whole story. I wanted to make something different, which didn't work out. But then I started the Avalon Shawl, which is a pattern, lovely pattern by Nadia Crétin-Lechen. I hope I said that right. And I find honestly that the picture does not do the beautiful shawl justice. And I really love how this turned out. My goal is, because, and that's the colorway name, Glacier. I wanted to have this done for the Alaska cruise that we were on recently. And I just had this vision of wearing something beautiful and then kind of have it, you know, flying in the wind on the boat, and, well, being a little bit like Kate Winslet in the Titanic movie, but I mean, that was all nonsense. I mean, do I look like her? Yes. Well, no, not at all. So, and in reality, I did get the shawl done while we were on the cruise. Of course, I could not block it. I hung it over a hanger and had it in the bathroom for a day or so with shower and steam and all. But I mean, that was no comparison to real blocking. But we ended up taking some really nice pictures with my daughter, where we went outside briefly because it was very cold, briefly before dinner, and we took some lovely pictures outside in the evening, and I really love how those turned out too. I have to figure out how that is, because she took them with her phone where it's the live photo, and so those are the nicest ones that I have, but I have to figure out how I convert these into a regular photo, because I couldn't upload any of those to Ravelry. It wouldn't let me for some reason. It doesn't matter. But long talking about this, so here's my shawl. And it's just really a perfect size. And something that I did not tell you last time, I think I had started it last podcast, is that I had added a whole section of the pattern to mine. So I had cast on more stitches, which means that it would have only had this width, which wouldn't, I think it would have taken away from the wearability that I hoped to get. See how far down this goes. This is really what I wanted, kind of going over my back. Now the way I'm holding it, it goes down on the side to my waist, the kind of like the slimmest area of my waist. I made this with 3.5 millimeter needles as the pattern required. Like I said, it's my ZiaWoolz Sugarloaf base, which is a 100% light fingering, 100% merino light fingering weight. And I have to tell you this, I was again trying to get a whole, which way did I work this? I'm not sure. So I tried to get a whole section more in, and what happened on the boat was that I ended up just with one purl row at the end. And because I wanted to have the beginning and the end of the shawl identical with that garter band, I frogged it, but only at home. So I ripped back that whole section, and then I added that section of ribbing, and that's why I have a tiny ball of yarn left. My glacier shawl. I had, of course, decided very last second to make a hat for my husband. I was going through some leftover small amounts of yarn that would knit up fast, and I found this. And this is the yarn. I have this much left over. It's also a European yarn, and I want to say I made this with the 8 millimeter needle size as the pattern states, and it is one of the yarns that are constructed like an I-cord, and even though it has mohair in it, it's it's soft. I mean, it's not the softest, but it's okay. And I made him just a ribbed beanie. I hope that is even, that you can see this. Oh yes, wait a minute. Okay. And it was something that I came up with. Did he need it, and did he wear it? It wasn't cold enough. It was cold only briefly, and he's usually the baseball hat kind of guy. But I'll show you how this thing looks like. It's just a very simple hat. Cute, I think. He doesn't have a big head, so this was growing fast on fat needles, and it didn't matter that he didn't wear it, because it was no biggie to make it, and now finally he has one. Another thing that I made for the vacation that I decided on very shortly before we left is a pair of mittens for photographers, because I knew we were going to be outside and to take pictures, and I thought ice, glaciers, it's going to be cold. I will want to take a lot of photos, but I don't want my hands to freeze off. So I was thinking maybe fingerless mitts won't be enough, even though I brought them too. Hey, fly, go away. And so I made a special design, and I haven't even added these to my Ravelry page. Neither did I add the hat, by the way, in case you wonder. And so I have made a mitten with hand spun yarn, and I'm thinking it was probably an amount of 4 ounces at some point. This is the mitten, and here's my funky. It has a photographer's opening for the index finger, because I brought my big camera, of course, and so I can take pictures without, yeah, taking them off. So I did wear these, but not much. I didn't need them much. I made a pair. And the fiber is hand spun, like I said, from a farm called Kid Hollow Farm. Really beautiful. And as far as I remember, the farm used to be in Virginia, and I bought this probably either at Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival before we moved to New Mexico, or I did order a little bit of her fiber on, not online. I actually asked, I emailed with her and we communicated that way, and she sent samples and I placed some orders. But unfortunately, the farm doesn't exist anymore. They had all mohair goats and always a lot of beautiful blends. But the owners were a couple, and the husband passed away, and I think not too long after that the wife decided to sell the farm, sell the mohair goats. I'm not quite sure. Haven't gotten any information on that, unfortunately. But it's good memories. Oh, pattern, there is none. This is something that I made up with and knitted with 6mm needles. I'm sure there's a lot of cute patterns online for mittens. I have brought something else that I wore quite a bit on the vacation that I thought you might like to see, because I always get a lot of compliments on it, and it's a pattern that you can definitely make and that I would encourage you to make, because it's just a killer gorgeous thing, and that is the peasy hat. It is a pattern by Karin Schubert. I'm as far as I remember, I'm going to put the information here, and it is reversible, which I just love. So I wore this both ways on the vacation. I don't think I have any pictures of it this way. Most of the times I wear it this way. I can totally recommend the pattern. It was very well written, and it just makes such a great hat. The peasy hat. What else? So, you know, a while ago I was all about the finishing things. And before we left for this vacation, I really realized why I don't like having very little works in progress, because then when you travel, what do you take? You have no choice. You have to start something new or take something that you have started, but then it always, for me, I get very stressed out by picking the right stuff. And I think it's less stressful when you have a few things going and you already know how they are versus starting something new. So I brought one project that I thought would be a good thing and that I thought I may actually even finish on the cruise. Well, I was wrong. You've seen this before. I showed you. And I am talking about this. This is a yarn that is discontinued. It's a very soft microfiber novelty yarn, extremely soft. And color-wise, it fits perfectly with this. So I thought I'm going to make myself another top-down cardigan, kind of like something a little fancy with the glitter in it. But then I started working on this on the cruise, and I ended up not liking it. Side, top down. I kind of had I had figured it out a little bit with my stitch count and all, similar to the one that I showed you earlier, but this one I thought I was going to knit with one size up. So with 8mm needles, the reddish one was in 7mm needles, and I changed up the stitch count for the body a little bit. I made the body a tiny bit wider, but kept the same size for the sleeves, just to have it a little more flowy. And I thought this one's going to be longer, and I didn't want it that fitted. I just wanted to go loosely over whatever I'm wearing. And what the problem is, what I don't like so much is that I feel it's kind of like flimsy. And I don't know, that's what I thought when I was working on it. Bumblebee. And but now I just pulled it out of the bag and I like it after all. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Look at this. Oh. So what I had already done when I came home is I went through my yarns, because I thought, well, I'll just add another yarn to, and I hold 3 together. So I found this, which is a, what is it? Feels very cottony. It has 75% cotton and 5% acrylic, no, 20% acrylic and 5% polyamide. I thought it would have a viscose or something. It's also something variegated, and it's a Louisa Harding yarn, and I'm thinking that it may overpower my colors here. See that? Because if you hold this next to it, it's going to make it very pink. Actually, it's not as bad as I thought, with the being flimsy and loosey-goosey when I pulled it out of the bag. So it will stay in timeout until I can make up my mind what will happen with it. It does live in a bag which I have made and which I like very much, because it has the little quail and cacti on it. flowers on the back and feathers on the inside. Off you go. I'll see, not sure. Maybe I'll knit a small sample with that pink to see. Okay, then I didn't even bring you the socks that I had also brought to the vacation because I have not worked a lot on those, so I'll show them another time. But I brought another project to start on the trip, and this is the story. I had dyed again just 2 or 3 days before we left. I had dyed yarn to start a new project that I wanted to take on the trip. And what I dyed was a yarn to make a shawl for a friend who has just moved away. And I miss her, and she loves red, and I don't dye a lot of reds just because of me. I'm not a very, I don't wear a lot of reds, but it's her favorite color, and so I thought it's got to be red. I dyed it. The colorway name is Mein Mädchen, because the story is that we are a group of 3 friends, or we were a group of locally 3 friends who every few weeks got together, had breakfast together, and got caught up with on our lives and chatted and whatnot. And now, after this one friend moved away to Seattle, actually, we started, the 3 of us started a group where we stay in touch through WhatsApp, and where we talk about, you know, life and what's happening, especially with her now that she's gone, and so she kind of has a little bit of a feel of what's going on in our lives, and that group is called Mein Mädchen, Meine Mädchen. So, and we that's why I named the colorway Mein Mädchen, which is my girl. My girl, or my girls is the name for our group, and the colorway is called My Girl. So, and it's just a simple red, and I dyed it up in my Mesa base, which is a blend of merino, silk, and alpaca. It's a DK weight. So I had a few patterns, and this is where it was kind of stressful. So I knew the yarn that I wanted to have. I knew the colorway, and I thought, well, this is going to be very nice. It's going to be cozy in Seattle when she's cold in winter, and she's going to be commuting a lot. And so this was the yarn choice. That was the easy part. But then I had a few patterns in my queue where I thought, oh, I would really like to do these. And so I actually purchased 2 patterns that I'd had in my queue for a while, where I thought they might work, and where I thought I'm going to sample before I leave. And then I printed out the patterns, and this all went differently from there, but I still wanted to show you the patterns. This is the Winter Cardinal by Fogbound Knits, and let me find a better picture. And this is the Rose Plank by Monica Serna. So everything was a little bit, Ike just has to say hi. I'll just keep talking. So everything was a little bit off with these. So I have to say that I thought this is just gorgeous, but the pattern has so many pages that I thought this is not going to be a good travel knit. So one day this will happen, the rose plank, but it was not, just not the right thing. Now, the winter cardinal is a red shawl in itself. And let me show you another pattern, picture. One thing that I don't like too much, and that's just me, I would like the lacy section. I would like that better if it went along the edge. And I cannot even tell you why in the end I decided against this one, even though I like it. Well, if you know me, you won't be surprised to hear that I decided to make another Lemmy K by Isabel Kramer. I have made two already. I've made one for my mother and one for myself, and now I'm making it for my friend. And I am fairly far along already, and this is how it looks like. I hope you can see, because I can't see what you see. I am on the pattern section and I love it so much. Again, this was initially, when I made this, the first one, this was a little bit demanding. And I still need to look at the chart quite a bit, but I must say that I have understood it. You know how you get a feel for a lace pattern and then you don't need to look as much anymore. I sometimes just look to make sure I'm really on the right track. And I try to knit on this every day just to get it done so I can mail it, because my friend is she's already left, so I'm going to mail this to her. And what I did, I mean, you can see in the beginning there's just a lot of stockinette, and so this is just really nice because it's just mindless and almost like a sock, and you can, you know, you don't need to, you got this memorized, of course, super easily. And what I did was I didn't even carry the pattern around with me, but then later when I started the chart, I'm working from this, and as you can see, I laminated my chart. There are two halves. I laminated them, and I'm using a marker tape to mark my spot. Again, as you can see, marker in different locations, because now I don't need the marker that much anymore. I know where I am, which is kind of halfway through the pattern. So I'm excited. I am on my third ball of yarn, probably about halfway through, and I have one more that I will use, and the project lives in a zombie everything ladies bag. Cowgirls and nurses and Just fun stuff on here. Oh, and oh yes, again, I am making this larger than the pattern states. I did my math and added 2 charts per half. It's a triangle and there's this line in the middle. And so you can see it's about this much more. Hi, cat. So that's not hard. You just keep increasing until you have enough more stitches for the extra charts that you want. And I always use markers to mark every pattern repeat, because if I make a mistake, I will find it so much easier. That is my Lemmy K the Third. And since I am back from the vacation, I bet this looks very funny for you. Since I'm back from the vacation, I have been dyeing a lot of yarn, and one of the new colorways that I have come up with called me to find a project to knit with it. And what I picked was a 2-colored shawl pattern. It's called Seagrass, and it is by Janina Callio. And I decided to make this with my Santa Fe base, which is a 50-50 merino silk blend. I am using the Nightfall colorway, which is a very dark blackish blue. Doesn't even look that dark. It's not that dark, but I called it Nightfall, this colorway. And the other, oh yeah, this looks so funny because of course it's so slippery with the silk that it just, you can't wind it with a ball winder, or only at the beginning, and then it starts slipping off, and so I hand wound the rest of the ball. Same on the other one. And this is my colorway, Boomtown. It has all the colors. Pink, burgundy, green, turquoise-ish. So sweet. Blues. Love it. And this is one of the yarns, you work with this and you understand why people love speckled yarns, because they're just so fun to work with. Every stitch can be a little bit different, and it's just so sweet. So much fun. And this is where I am. I am using my 3.5 millimeter Chaogu needles, and I'm just gonna keep going. Right now I am alternating my Lemmy K and this one, sometimes both in one night, and sometimes I only work on one of these in the evening, and that works well for me. But of course, yesterday I was No, I was not a naughty girl. I did homework. I had to do homework, right? You have to do homework. Well, I have, goodness, this cat, he's gonna pop in and out of the picture, of course, because he's laying right here on my mittens, on my photographer's mittens, which must be very cozy. He doesn't care if it's warm or cold. Actually, it's not. There's a nice breeze and it's not hot over here, as I said before. So, yep. So, I have, you know how excited I am about about Kramer retreat in September, and we will be knitting in class the Armory sweater, which is a top-down design. It doesn't, I mean, it doesn't matter, but for the class, we will start, since we start the sweater in the class, we are supposed to do swatches, gauge swatches, which are not the size of a stamp, but a decent size where you can actually really measure 4 by 4 inches or 10 by 10 centimeters. Oh, you cat, you. Okay, now you wandered off. This whole setup is on our garden table, which is extended, kind of large, so he's sitting over there right now. Let's see if he comes back. So the story is that Isabel Kramer made the sweater, the original design, in a more woolly yarn. And I am woolly in terms of more rustic. Now, I felt like maybe I want to go with that and also not use your typical soft merino. I thought about this quite a bit, and I went through the project pages on Ravelry, through yarn ideas for the sweater pattern, and I stumbled upon a Danish yarn company and ended up placing an order with them in Denmark. I had it shipped, and it was here within 1 week, even 6 days. It was very funny because some local friends, we went into this frenzy of with those yarns on that site, and we kind of texted back and forth and we placed an order together. But I must say, if you're interested in this yarn and you're thinking about ordering from them, I don't think it really makes a large difference if you combine the amount of yarns with a few friends. It's only, you know, for the fun of it. I don't know. In terms of, you don't really, what I meant to say was you don't save shipping cost, really, I thought. Because initially I put it in the cart, just what I ordered, and I saw the shipping cost. I can't remember now, but and then we ended up being a total of 4 people who ordered. And this is a yarn that is very reasonably priced. And when I say very reasonably, I mean sweater's quantity of yarn is cheaper than 1 skein of hand-dyed yarn, including my own. It's crazy. So sometimes you just gotta switch up things and try something new. I usually want my yarns soft, especially when I wear something on my neck, sweaters, that kind of stuff. And with these, I knew I was going to be a little pushing the limit a little bit, but I thought, oh, whatever, for this price, I can give it a try, you know. And I ended up ordering 3 sweaters quantity. Yeah. Because there are 3 different bases. All of them have an a crazy amount of beautiful colors. And I ordered a cotton and wool blend. Let me show you which is this one. And I am talking about, I haven't even told you what yarn company I'm talking about, the Holst Garn. And this is the cotton lamb's wool blend, a 45 cotton, 55 lamb's wool. And I also ordered the 100% super soft wool in this gorgeous color. That was the hardest, by the way, to pick the colors. That's why I ended up with 3, because I could only, and I could, I mean, I could say, well, I need to try all the different places. So yeah, that's what you do. And this is the third yarn. And this is a silk wool blend, 70 wool, 30 silk. I just love their labels. So pretty. All of these are machine washable. Very cool. And I read up, especially on the wool yarn, and this was very interesting because it said that this is very greasy, still kind of like, you know, with the lanolin of the sheep, from the sheep. And I have never ever had a commercially produced yarn that smells this sheepy. Seriously, it's like picking up a fleece. Very, very sheepy, like sticking your nose into the sheep, seriously. But I love it. I love it so much. And the very cool thing is, yesterday I did all my 3 swatches, my homework. I had to do it, right? I had to do my homework for my Isabel Kramer class. So I did all 3 swatches and measured them before washing and after washing. I mean, I took pictures with a ruler, whatever. And then I washed them, and I just love them so much. Look at that. They're very lightweight. So now I just got to decide on how I like the fabric of my sweater to be. And I'm almost thinking that the wool cotton, I'm personally like it a little denser. So I would not like, some patterns, they let you knit a lace yarn with a thicker needle, and that's just not something that I like too much. I don't know. So that would be this one. But still, it's a beautiful fabric. And I hand washed mine, and this apparently is even nicer when you machine wash it. Becomes even nicer, I should say. Very pretty. All colors, super pretty. And I used a 3.5 millimeter needle, in case you wonder. But this woolly stuff, I adore it so much. Look at this. It has the variation in it. It just totally fluffed up, densed up. It does not smell like sheep anymore. It smelled like I used a sock soap bar, and it's just wonderful. Love it. So I have not decided on what I'm going to use in the class. I still have to measure, and I think my row gauge is right. However, my stitches, again, like for my Yumi sweater, which by the way I haven't touched in a while, so my stitches I'm off with my stitches. So I don't really know yet. But that's, I think, just a normal thing with me and Isabel Kramer's patterns. So I just got to figure out what I'm going to do with in regards to that. So, don't know. So, in the meantime, until I have made my decision, or maybe really until I go to class, I have 3 sweater quantities of yarn living in this ginormous bag with this lining. So, my friends, what's next? Let me check my notes here real quick. Oh, yes. Even if you knit quite kinda monogamously on some projects, you still have to, you can dream, right? So I'm cruising Ravelry at times, and I was coming across one pattern and one designer, which will both go on the needle soon. One pattern is, of course, the designer is not going on my needle soon, but one of her patterns. Dang, what am I saying? Well, one is the beeswax hat, and I have been dyeing all my beekeeper yarns in the last week. So I will show you some of those in a moment. But I feel that I have to make a beekeeper hat, of course, in one of those colorways. Looks so lovely. And then I also came across, like I said, this other designer, which is local to me. She lives in Santa Fe, from what I understand, and she has these 2 beautiful, also very nicely patterned hat patterns, a lot of texture, and one of them is called the La Luz. That's our trail here up our mountain, which is called La Luz, and which she named the hat pattern after. And the designer's name is Alyssa Latucci. I hope I said that right. Oh yes, and very important. I don't know if that matters to you, but her patterns right now, all through August, are all the patterns in this hat collection are discounted by 20%. And I have purchased 2. This is another one that's also New Mexico themed, and it's called the Gallows Edge. Beautiful. And I have picked this one, which I'm thinking I may use, and it is called, the colorway is called the Beekeeper's Sun. And the yarn, the base is my Chama. And the Chama is an 8-ply cabled yarn, which would work very, very well with a textured yarn like this to keep the stitch definition very well. So, and this leads me right into the yarns that I have brought, the colorways that I have dyed up, and that will go in the shop probably later today. So I'm not sure which bases I'm going to pop in, so pay attention and read. If you are interested in any of these, read what it says about them. They're different weights. This one is a sport weight, but I've dyed a lot of my Roadrunner singles also, which I think will go in the shop. And let me show you these. I brought you a shawl which I have knitted out of my Beekeeper's Daughter colorway. I probably showed this before, but I thought this gives you an idea of how the beekeeper's daughter knits up. Lots of orange and yellow, and this is how it looks like in the skein. This is the beekeeper's daughter on the Sundancer vase. I'm probably gonna pop this in the shop on my Sandia merino sock yarn. And then there are these. This is the original Beekeeper on Roadrunner singles. Again, Roadrunner. This is the Beekeeper's boyfriend. And this one is called Beekeeper in Love. And I will close with this. It was so fun to be with you again. This has already been very long. And just so you know, if you are interested in a little bit of travel footage, I'm going to pop some short videos and photos at the end of this, and hopefully you will like to do a little bit of virtual traveling with me that way. But I had forgotten about some important things that I meant to add. Thank you again to Vicky of Davixa Designs, who gave the pattern for her potluck pullover for a giveaway for the podcast. And since the people who entered are my German viewers, I will draw the winner for that on the German episode. But also, I almost forgot to show you the treasures that I brought from my vacation, because of course, as we do, I had to look up where I find yarn stores, and boy, there are many yarn stores in Alaska, so I didn't even visit all of them. For example, in Anchorage, I did not look up where there's a yarn store and did not go to it, even though it's supposed to be a nice one. And I did visit a Kiviat farm where I did not buy yarn. However, this story's, the Kiviat story, continues. So hold on, I will show you my treasures. So one yarn, so I try to stick with the local stuff that I cannot get anywhere else. And one of the yarns that I found that I fell in love with was this little beauty. It's, again, like we go with the theme of the glacier color, kind of. The company is called Little One, and it's dyed by, oh yes, hand dyed in small batches in Juneau, Alaska. It's a singles yarn, and I didn't write down where I bought it. Maybe in Juneau. I don't know. And then this, I so enjoyed this little yarn store, which was called The Hive in Ketchikan, Alaska. And I even got a little wool wash with that. I mean, I thought that's so nice. And I found this gorgeousness. Put that down. It is, oh, I just love it. Let me tell you what this is. Silk and Sea. It is 51% silk, 29 merino, and 20% sea cell, which is from seaweed. And it has, it's about 100 grams, and it has 750 yards. Beautiful. Can't wait to try this. That feels so lovely, and I bet it has a beautiful drape. And then something which I probably should have unpacked, but then again, maybe not. This is from a store in Sagway. And let me tell you this will go from its packaging into the safe. No, don't know the safe. But it is this most exquisite Kiviot fancy yarn. Can you see how beautiful this is? Oh my gosh. Sorry, the gnats are coming out. What can I say? If you've ever looked at this, you know how pricey it is, but it's nothing that you want to order online. So I decided I'm gonna get it there and have it as a very special travel souvenir. And it is gained from, I mean, it comes from Windy Valley muskox in Alaska. So I can't wait to make something with it. But then again, this is so special. Maybe it will have to stay like this for a very long time. Okay, my friends, I've shared my new stash and I have talked about the giveaway, and this is the time now to really say goodbye, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again in the next episode. And until then, I hope you are well, and I wish you a lot of happy, joyful projects. Happy knitting. Bye.